Okay, so the Minnesota Vikings kick off training camp in just over a month at the beautiful confines in Eagan TCO facilities. PFF came out with an all 32 team ranking of each team's salary cap situation, not just for now, but the future as well. The Minnesota Vikings landed in the middle at 14, noting when Kwesi was brought in, many just assumed he'd blow the whole thing up and start from scratch. Instead, he gives Kirk a 1 year, $35 million extension and says, yeah, I got to have at least one season where I can see what he can do with Kevin O'Connell. One time. The article also notes the big decision he had to make with Danielle Hunter coming off back-to-back trips on the IR. He was due $18 million. They get a new deal done. Essentially, he kicks the can down the road a bit. Same could be said about Adam Thielen, Harrison Smith. They signed new contract extensions. Sam, when you look ahead to next offseason, here's the big names set to hit free agency. Garrett Bradbury, Patrick Peterson, Irv Smith Jr. Next tier down, you've got Chandon Sullivan and Jesse Davis, both on one-year deals. But when you look at what Kwesi has done with this cap as a whole and what next offseason's major questions will be, what's your overall assessment of not only winning in the now, but the plan 2-3 years down the road for Kwesi and the Vikings? Because usually when you bring in a new regime, it's a given. They get a window. They get 3, 4, 5 years to build their team and manage the roster their unique way. But Kwesi seems to like what the old regime had built enough to where it feels like rolling with the same core and nucleus, at least for this first season.
Yeah, I felt like Kwesi set up sort of a 2-year window with this group. Because if you look at the Vikings salary cap commitments, they've got over $200 million committed this year too, but next year as well, they've got $226 million committed. So the cap next year is still pretty full. I don't think they have a ton of flexibility going into next year, but then after that, there's a pretty big drop off where they can get out of some of those contracts. You look at the way they created cap space this year, they reduced Kirk's number, they gave him that extra year. They reduced Thielen's number, gave him more down the road. They kicked the can on, Danielle Hunter as well. So they did sort of make some moves that kicked money into next year, and that's going to create, again, a little bit of a pickle for them bringing in new talent in 2023. But there's always creative ways to work around the cap. So I don't think that's the end of the world. I think that by coming, they definitely stamped their identity of their intention. They created like this competitive team right away that's probably going to keep most of the guys around next year as well. So I don't think we're sitting on 1 year and done with this group. I think that they are committed to trying not only this year, but next year as well to win. Kirk obviously has the no trade clause, so it's fairly difficult to get out from under that contract. And if you're paying Kirk, you're probably going to try to create a good team around him. So it does feel like a bit of a 2-year window. And within that 2-year window, that is when you need to groom some other talent. So if you're trying to groom a cornerback to replace Patrick Peterson, you've got Andrew Booth Jr. You're trying to create a safety to replace Harrison Smith maybe in a couple of years, you've got Lewis Seen. So I think they've done a nice job of setting up a pipeline behind some of these higher priced veterans. Maybe Kendricks only has a couple of years left. You've got Brian Asamoah. So there are rookies that I think are strategically drafted who are not necessarily going to have a huge impact in year one, but will be able to replace some of those higher priced veterans down the road once those contracts are a little easier to get out from. I don't think that's next year. I think 2024 might be the first sign of some real turnover with this new regime.
Always fun, worth noting, guys like the Danielle Hunters, Harrison Smiths, Thielens, Eric Kendricks, looking at their contract, looking ahead. They're going to have to back up the Brinks truck for Justin Jefferson here soon. But I think it all comes down to the quarterback for nearly every NFL team. And it's pretty black and white, right? Either you try your luck, draft a quarterback, get him on the rookie deal, pay him cheap for 5 years, and then have money to build around him. Seahawks showed us that blueprint. They struck gold with Russell Wilson. They built the Legion of Boom on defense, and they had a great run. Or you pay a premier top 10, top 12 quarterback, that big boy money, build the pieces around him through the draft. The key with that is, though, you're paying top dollar for a quarterback, then you better be getting top dollar play on the field that matches that contract. And I think that's what Vikings fans love to go back and forth about, whether it's Twitter, social media, you name it. When it comes to paying Kirk Cousins all that money, is he getting you your return on your investment? And I think when you look at some of these other quarterback deals around the league, paying Cousins $35 million to get the kind of production he's had, is not as bad of a deal as many people want to make it seem. Something that is as good as it seems, though, Sam. Blue Nile Jewelry. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. Use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. So, the Vikings rank 14th in future cap. Green Bay Packers near the bottom of the list with a cap future mess at 28th. It's no secret what they're doing, pushing the chips all in with this last little window. Aaron Rodgers paying him Jeff Bezos money, over $50 million a year. He's on back-to-back MVP seasons. Green Bay's won 13 or more games 3 years in a row, yet couldn't make the Super Bowl in any of those seasons. In fact, under Rodgers and all the accolades, only one Super Bowl to show for it, but yet here we are, weak NFC North by many NFL experts, weak NFC conference in general. This is Super Bowl or bust territory for the Packers, is it not? I mean, the time is now or never.
Yeah, that salary cap is super bloated, not only this year, but next year and the year after that. If you compare the Vikings situation to the Packers situation is far, far worse, and it's no surprise that they couldn't keep za'darius Smith. They couldn't keep Chin Sullivan. They do bring back Jair Alexander. That's a big reacquisition. David Bakhtiari, is he going to be healthy this year? He's costing them a lot of money. Kenny Clark, Preston Smith still around. Devondre Campbell, that big new contract. Paying Aaron Jones. I shake my head. I don't know. I don't know why you do that after you draft A.J. Dillon, but hey, you do you. Adrian Amos, highly paid. Randall Cobb, highly paid. Rasul Douglas getting big money out of nowhere. The Packers are squeezing that salary cap for everything it's worth, and they've still got Aaron Rodgers on their roster. So they are proof that you can have a top-paid quarterback and you can still find a way, using those salary cap loopholes, to field a pretty competitive team. I do, I worry about their depth, I guess. Are they going to have the kind of depth to withstand injuries? But when you have Rodgers, it's the panacea. It's the trump card. Like, you just have that guy that's going to will you to victory, do whatever it takes, and you don't need to have the depth. I mean, that covers up so many flaws on your roster that you can let someone like za'darius Smith walk, and you're probably going to be all right. So as long as Rodgers is on that roster, Luke, I'm done underestimating this team. For 2 consecutive off seasons, I've sat here and probably on June 23rd, and I've said the Packers are going to regress. And what have they done? They've won 13 games, a baker's dozen, 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row in total. So who am I to say that their depth is a problem? They've got Aaron Rodgers. They're going to be all right.
And that's the absolute X factor, obviously. It's Aaron Rodgers, right? And you're right. I mean, I think maybe some people worried about their depth a little bit, but when you look at their 11 starters, even on defense, it is a stacked Super Bowl caliber team. And that's why I think if you ask Packer fans, 13 wins every year, yeah, that's great. Rodgers win an MVP, sure, that's fun. But if they don't win a Super Bowl right now, I mean, look at the real threats standing in their way. I mean, Brady and the Bucks, sure. But outside of that, who is it? I mean, I got to think for Super Bowl champs, they never repeat. It's just too hard with the target on your back all 17 games. So I think the Rams will digress a little bit this year. Then who? The Cowboys, the Eagles, or the Cardinals, maybe the Niners if Trey Lance can ball out. Going to be a lot of fun, though, to watch this 2022 season unfold. Of course, it all starts with training camp for the Vikings just over a month away at TCO facilities in Eagan. Rest assured, you can find all your daily practice coverage right here on the Locked On Minnesota Network.